So when I had the idea to start 10 Pin Life, it was really about growing the sport that I love. Bowling has been an absolute godsend for me since I started it, and I really want to see more people be able to engage with the sport that I appreciate so much. So, how do we do that? Well, obviously, there's learning more about the game. So, learn about bowling balls, learn about lane play, drills, training, that sort of stuff, how the game actually works, and being able to educate people on what it is that we're actually doing. But also, we need the professionals that participate in the sport that we love so much to be human, not to just be people that we see on TV or on our phones, on Flow Bowling or on Bowl TV. So when I had this idea, I really wanted to make a point to interview professionals of our sport, to give them a voice, to make them more human, to show kind of who they are so that we can really start to cheer for them, not just as athletes, but also as people. So that's where the 10 Pin Life podcast comes into play. This is all about giving professionals the opportunity to be able to be human, not just the people that we see on TV. So to start off, Maria Bulanova, who just wrapped up her rookie season on the PWBA tour, said yes to joining me for the very first 10 Pin Life podcast. Maria is the youngest person to ever win a European Bowling Tour title. She's the first Russian to ever win a European Bowling Tour title. In her collegiate career, she bowled at Vanderbilt, where she was first the D1 Rookie of the Year in 2016, and then followed that up with the D1 Player of the Year in 2019. She also anchored, pun intended, the Vanderbilt team to winning a national title in 2018. But let's let Maria tell her story. Here we go, 10 Pin Life podcast number 1. I kind of want to hear it from you, like what your bowling story was, over in Russia. And I have a lot of like notes about things that you were able to succeed in, like you're the youngest person to win a European Bowling Tour title, which is crazy to me to think that you could be that level of successful at, was it 14 years old? I think it was, yeah, they're 14 or 16. I don't remember. You're going to know better than me, but tell me about it.
No, it
Like,
was 14.
it was
Yeah.
14.
Honestly, I don't. Yes, it was 14. So I guess I started bowling when I was almost 7 years old. It was the summer before I actually went to the first grade. My parents didn't know what to do with me because I lived in Moscow. It's a huge city. And for some reason, I stayed in the city instead of going to our country house with my grandparents that summer. And both of my parents worked. So there was a bowling alley literally down the street from my dad's work, and they were doing like a city camp where you drop your kids off in the morning and you pick them up after work at night.
Mm-hmm.
And I started bowling there. And I didn't really think much of it. I was having fun. I didn't play any other sports growing up. It was just bowling.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I just picked it up and never looked back.
Was there ever any like questioning, like let's say you hit your teenage years and then it's like, oh, now I'm getting really good at it, but was there ever that moment of like, why am I doing this? This is weird.
I think not, because
Mm-hmm.
first of all, I didn't play any other sports growing up, so I didn't really have
Yeah,
an option to go to a different sport at that
right,
point,
right.
and it wasn't on my mind. And second, I've been doing it for as long as I can remember myself. Like I literally don't remember my life without bowling. So there was never a moment where I was like, let me just, I don't know, go play some basketball. Like no.
That's awesome. And then like what was the process like of going from, just bowling at your local bowling center to then bowling in European national events, like especially at that young, like you're walking into bowling centers where you're bowling against old men, I would have to assume, and everybody else in between. Was that something that's relatively normal around there? I guess I don't know much of anything about the bowling scene that's in Russia or Eastern Europe, anything like that. What was that process kind of like?
So, I think it's kind of weird to think about it. I think that it wasn't that hard for me to go bowl a tournament with, I don't know, adults or go a tournament in Europe, because in Russia there's not really a lot of youth bowlers. So any tournament I would go bowl, it would be with adults.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go bowl it since, I don't know, I was 12, 13. It's not like I was
Mm-hmm.
always winning or getting
Right.
close to win at the age, but I kind of picked it up and I just kept going because it was the only tournaments available,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
There were very, very few youth tournaments. And then when I actually got on the national team as a youth bowler, my coach in Moscow was the national coach. So,
Okay.
it was kind of a smooth transition because I didn't really have to, I don't know, get used to a different atmosphere. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of looked at it as going to a tournament with my coach, like I
Mm-hmm.
usually would.
That to me is the coolest part about bowling is you're never actually bowling against anybody besides yourself. I don't know if you look at it that way, but like for me, because I grew up playing team sports, but for me, bowling was really attractive, especially once I got a little bit older, because it didn't matter who I was around. If I could be as good as I could be and then take a quarter step forward in a positive direction, I know that I'm going to get that little bit better. And it's just 60 feet, 10 pins in yourself. And it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. And actually, if you don't pay attention to everyone else, at least for me, the better I bowl as a whole, because if I start scoreboard watching, it just all falls apart. But I guess was that something, like you
Yeah.
said, you didn't have any youth bowlers in your area. You didn't really have any peer groups or anything like that. It was just something that was kind of natural for you to jump into.
Well, when I just started, there was a youth group around, but
Mm-hmm.
eventually, I don't know, the bowling alley that we all bowled in kind of closed. I
Okay.
don't remember for what reason. So everybody kind of went different places. Somebody quit bowling. But, like I think about, I don't know, Storm Youth Championships, right?
Mm-hmm.
They sell out in an hour. In Russia, that would never happen. You would have, I don't know, 20, 30 bowlers signed up tops. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm referring to when I'm saying, oh, there were no youth bowlers.
Yeah. Across the entire country.
Yes,
Yeah.
that would go out and compete. Like they would go travel to compete
Mm-hmm.
like that. I'm kind of fortunate enough that I grew up in Moscow, which is usually the center, the epicenter of all the events. And most people live there, like most
Yeah.
bowlers who are
Mm-hmm.
competitive. So I kind of
Mm-hmm.
got lucky that we had tournaments there. In other cities, it's not even that popular.
Mm-hmm. So then you won, and I'm probably going to phrase this wrong, but the Master of Sports in bowling, which sounds like it is a national accreditation in Russia for individual sports. Talk to me, what does that kind of mean? Because to somebody who's lived in central Wisconsin his whole life, that is literally a very foreign thing to me.
So I there's no direct explanation to it because you guys don't have something like that here.
Yeah.
But if you were to think about ranks like in the army and the forces, you
Mm-hmm.
know how you become a soldier and then you have to work your way up like
Mm-hmm.
over the years and your achievements.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of the same way in Russia, but it's for all the sports, even the team sports.
Okay. Okay. So, what is the process of working your way up in bowling when you don't have any young youth bowlers that bowl competitively? Is it just like, hey, you went and bowled with all these other adults and you held your own, and we're gonna move you up a rank, or how did that kind of go?
So when I was just starting, it was by the average. So you would go to something like team trials you have here, but like Russian championship,
Hmm.
and you'd have to have a certain average for however many games you would bowl to earn a certain rank.
Hmm.
And some of the ranks you would have to keep earning year after year. Like you would have to like confirm that you're still good enough to be ranked that. And the master of sports is kind of like a title already.
Okay.
Like you don't have to confirm that one. And usually you get the master of sports, and then there's international master of sports, and then there's one more. Um, I got mine for placing in the European Youth Championships.
Mm-hmm.
Think that year I got like a bunch of different medals, so they were like, oh, okay, you get the title now. And to
Mm-hmm.
get a higher title, you have to do it at Worlds, and in an even higher title, you have to do it at the Olympic Games. So kind of averaging at a local tournaments to national tournaments to European to World to Olympics.
So, did they have anything to say when you struck to become an NCAA champion? That seems like it
Uh,
would qualify.
I wish, I really wish, but no.
That's unfortunate because that's probably I mean, you've won so many things. There's probably a lot of moments that come up in thinking about like the coolest winning moments of your career thus far, but that's got to be top 3 at least.
The winning the national championship with
Yeah.
Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I always tell people that it was the best 10 pin I ever missed to win something. Because my very last shot, I left a 10 pin and I didn't even try. I whiffed it. I was like, it's enough.
Yep.
Get us the trophy.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that was so funny when I first started the TikTok thing. When I'm at work, I have some sort of like there's some days where I just do paperwork, so I'll just turn on bowling. And I had just like subscribed to you on TikTok or followed or whatever. And I was like, I feel like I know who that is now. like you just came up on my screen and I was like, yeah, I definitely know who that person is. But yeah, that's awesome. And now your coach at Vanderbilt won the US Open. Were you there?
I wasn't there for her winning moment,
Okay.
but I was bowling. I was bowling with her all the 24 games. I
Yeah.
made it to top 24, but I didn't make it to the show.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to scoreboard watch a little bit for that one, and then Josie just absolutely turned it on those last couple rounds. Did you well, it was match play, so you guys were all over the place, but was that something where, that's now you've got coach and mentor or mentee that's bowling on the same set of lanes? Were you guys working together, or kind of how did that go? Did you help her get her way to a US Open title?
Well, kind of, because I lost my match to her, so she got the bonus pins. But it wasn't on purpose. But mine and Joseph's relationship now, we're kind of like, I don't know, just friends. We
Yeah.
don't really see each other as like a coach or athlete, and it's really cool actually. And I think I gained a whole new I forgot the English word for it. Like how impressed I am with Josie. Like whole new respect
Yep.
for Josie for winning the US Open, because I was absolutely miserable in the top 24. I to be honest with you, I was like, I can't wait to go home. Like I can't. And she won the whole thing.
Right.
I cannot imagine how hard it was.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess that, I really think I know the answer is bowling 16 games of match play at the US Open in one day. But what is the longer day? Is it an NCAA tournament, or is it 16 games at the US Open?
I think the 16 games of the US Open are harder because we also bowled 24 games beforehand,
You're right.
and then we're bowling 16 and 16 more. And the last day I took a lot of.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a long, especially because that, and I actually, everyone gave the second pattern at the US Open probably the biggest reputation because it was at 40-foot flat. But I think the scores actually played out where that fourth pattern was harder. Did you see that? Like, I like from an outside party's perspective, it looked to me like the fourth pattern was harder than the flat pattern. But what did you see when you were actually bowling it?
I think that the fourth pattern actually was harder. We
Mm-hmm.
also, all of us were really tired too, but I don't think it mattered that much at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there was, I think the main thing about it was that there was like a random block of oil
Yeah.
on the right where your break point was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So if you throw it a little harder, it's 2, 8, 10. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think I saw it in my nightmares after that. And if you missed in, it was a 3, 6, 10 basically,
It,
and a lot of corner pins.
yeah. Did shape ever develop in it? Because that was one thing that I saw in those last two patterns. Is like for me, I absolutely despise forward oil. Like I don't like forward oil in patterns. I'm a low tilt guy. I'm not able to just get in and spin it. And I saw the third pattern was all forward oil, and I was like, well, somebody's gonna wreck that. Which Sherry ended up just absolutely destroying that pattern. Um, but then there was that they had that big block at like 35 to 40 feet on that fourth pattern. But like normally on any tournament condition you get some sort of shape, but it really didn't seem like there was ever any room to be like, all right, I'm going to move 7 left and just bank off of it. It never developed.
Mm-mm. With my rev rate, I in 8 games I
Yep.
moved 4 boards in
Four
eight
total.
games.
Four
Four
total.
total. Yeah.
That's insane. How many times do you change balls though in 8 games?
So
Dude.
I believe I started with my reality,
Yeah.
um, and then maybe I threw the axiom, and then I threw ordnance C4. So I would say
Wow.
I threw 3 balls.
That's crazy. And that's all surface, like just get it to roll and yeah, like give me a 10 pin.
Oh yeah, but you kind of had to use surface, but you couldn't put too much on it. The fronts at this bowling alley were hooking really early, the whole
Oh.
week.
Yep.
So you kind of wanted something to like blend in on the back end and not be too jumpy, but you also couldn't put too much surface because then it would just hook at your feet and you'll get the
Mhm.
2, 8, 10 for sure.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it was so frustrating.
You learned a lot though. I'd have to imagine.
I don't know. Well, yeah, and I also learned how to shoot a lot of stairs that I never learned. I feel sorry for all the reps that had to work that week because girls were throwing stuff around and kicking things like men. I was I personally I have to get the word, but I gave one of the reps a really hard time, and I was like, I'm really sorry. I'm just really frustrated right now.
Yeah. Brett Spangler, who is the primary rep for Motive, he calls those fry days, where you're just completely fried out. And yeah, I mean that's supposed to happen at the U.S. Open, they say, but I've never heard a story of it happening on the ladies tour. Was anybody actually breaking things? You don't have to name names, but like, what was the paddock room like?
Nobody actually broke things, but I don't know. Some people will take their wrist brace off and like put it on the chair. One of my friends, she said she kicked the ball return, but nobody really noticed, so she had to go fix it without anybody noticing because she like turned around and she's like, the reps definitely didn't have good time talking to
Yeah,
people.
yeah. Yeah, there was actually, I don't know if you are familiar with the story, but back when Pete Weber was in the midst of winning one of his 6 US Open titles, similar thing happened, where but it's Pete Weber, right? So you know that he's going to go absolutely ballistic because that's the way that he does things. And he actually took a bowling ball at he's like 5'1" and he weighs absolutely nothing, and he spiked it into the floor so hard that he split it in half. Like that's how
What?
mad he was. Yeah. Yeah. He split a 15-pound bowling ball in half in one swipe, that's so much force. But yeah, it's Richard Shockley who he lives in Rockford. You may have crossed paths with him at some point. He was there, and he actually coached me a little bit a few years ago. And yeah, that's probably one of my favorite stories ever. But yeah, the U.S. Open, man, it was fascinating to watch, and I think it's pretty cool that your coach was able to win and now your friend. Have you guys have you recapped on it at all, or has it just been Josie's gonna go take her 100 G's and she's gonna go live it up for a couple of weeks?
I actually don't know what she's gonna do with it, but I know Josie, and I know she's gonna be smart with it. She's not just gonna spend it all in 1 week. If it was me, I would already have a new car.
But you may, I mean, we don't have to get into super specifics, but it's not like you lost money your rookie year on tour either. I mean, you came out of Vandy pretty much swinging. Now you had Brianna, I don't know exactly how to say her name, and Stephanie, who absolutely railed everybody there for a while. But like, to be third place in that stacked of a rookie class, did you find yourself looking around and being like, wow, I'm really kind of in the middle of it. Like, this is pretty cool. Like, or like, was it just the normal thing? Like when you were growing up?
Well, this season, I'm not really happy with this season, how I've been bowling. So I've been telling myself, oh, I need to work on this and that. Like, you can't just, I don't know, go and not make a cut or something. And then I'm like, what are you saying? Like, you literally breathing the same air as Liz Johnson right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you literally bowling against the best in the world. Your rookie class absolutely rocks. And you're complaining about something so instant. So I would say sometimes because I had a lot of success in college and beforehand, I tell myself that I need to do better. But then I kind of do a reality check, and I'm like, sometimes it's kind of normal, and sometimes I'm like, wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there's got to be that moment where you're in match play in like the first time you hit match play, and then you cross with Shannon O'Keefe and Liz Johnson and Shannon Pluhowski and like all of these names that you watched as a kid. Like, there is got to be that moment where it's like, yeah, I could probably be throwing it better, but this is pretty cool too.
Yeah, actually, I was crossing with Stephanie Johnson at the U.S. Open for our qualifying blocks,
Mm-hmm.
and she, I don't know, she wasn't bowling when I was like, do you want to hear a story that might make you laugh? So she was like, yeah, sure. And I say, when I was a kid, I used to watch all those videos, that you see it back on YouTube, like recaps of style around the world, like all that. And I was like, at some point, I just stopped seeing Stephanie Nation, and I was super confused where she went. And then when I actually like moved here and I realized that she just got married, I was like, oh my gosh, like like me as a kid in Russia, I had like no idea how those people were. Like, I was so far from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, where is that Stephanie now? And then she actually laughed. She's like, yeah, that's cool.
That's hilarious. Yeah, so Derek Oaf, who's from Madison, so I've bowled a bunch of stuff against him. He was in those same videos, and I was just randomly scrolling through YouTube of probably a few months ago, and I took a screenshot and I sent it to my buddy Nick, who has been bowling PWBA regional level stuff for 15 years now. And I was like, that's Derek, right? Because man, he looks like a kid. Just looks like a completely different person. But yeah, that was back. Those were some good years for USBC when Rod Ross was really pushing Team USA forward. And yeah, it's pretty cool that you're able to see that over there. But there's a Team Russia, I would have to imagine. Have you ever been a part of that?
I was in the youth team and I was in the adult team. I think
Okay.
in the youth team since I was 13 or something, and adult team probably like 15, 16.
Okay. All right. And then traveled all over the world?
Well, mainly around Europe but I could say that I bowled on Tokyo in Tokyo. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. That is pretty neat. Was that one of your favorite places to go? Like, what was your, like, internationally, what's one of your favorite places to bowl?
Actually, Denmark, I think.
Interesting.
I like their bowling alleys. They're kind of like cute and small, but super clean and like all lit up. I don't know.
They just have a way with you. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I
Yeah.
would have never guessed
I mean,
Denmark. Yeah.
the the Dream Bowl Palace in Munich is pretty cool too.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know anything about any of those places, so that's pretty cool that you've been able to see those. I'll have to check those out. And that, do you know if you have any or if there's anything on the internet of you bowling anywhere over there, like in any of those cool centers?
I don't know if they would be on YouTube. I know there's I know there's individual shots of me, like somebody like took like a video and posted on YouTube, but no like actually like qualifying blocks or something. Actually, there might be. I don't know. If you were to Google EYC or European Youth Championships, a bunch of stuff would probably come up.
And I can still sort of
Actually, you
read
might see
German,
my
so
video, because
yeah.
okay, because when I was still no, when one of my first years of European Youth, Jesper, and I recorded him shoot a 300 game.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so that would have been you. You guys are probably just about the same age then, huh?
No, no. I think he is. Well, he's like 4 years older than me or something.
Okay.
I would think. I think so. I don't know.
But yeah, you guys kind of. I mean, it's different parts of Europe, but you've had to have crossed paths a number of times if you're all bowling the same events, right?
Yeah, I mean when we're like not really friends, but we definitely know of each other.
This is one thing I want to know. How did you get hooked up with Brad Miller to bowl the Lucy?
So I was looking for a partner. I'm just really late on things. So I called Gary Hosenberg in like I don't know, maybe May or June, and I was like, "Hey Gary, is there anybody to bowl with at the Lucy?" He's like, "No, I don't think so. But if somebody, I don't know, if I hear of somebody." And then I think maybe in June, sometime or May, I don't know, like a few weeks after that, he calls me and he's like, "Hey, I have a perfect partner for you." And I was like, "Who?" He's like, "Oh, you might know him, like no big deal." And he's like, "It's Brad Miller." And I'm like, "What?" So, and then the next thing I know, Gary Holstenberg is or like he puts us in a iMessage group together, and he's like, "Hi guys, meet each other. Bye."
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then how was it? Like, that's probably one of the coolest tournaments year round. And then you're doing it with the guy that's holding the camera the whole time. And like, I'm sure everybody and their brother is walking up to him like, "Hey, you're Brad Miller. Like, you're the YouTube guy." Like, what was that like?
It was really interesting. Brad has jokes. And then because he was feeling like he needed to, I don't know, for really big scores, because like all other guys were throwing big scores. He was frying out, and I was like, "Brett, I don't like fried food. I don't want it here." And we were just laughing about it. He's an interesting guy. He's really pleasant to be around. And I think we're bowling together next year too.
Awesome. Awesome. You gotta love having a date already for next year, because that's I don't know if there's a lot of exchange of partners in that tournament, but I've seen it a decent amount. But it's pretty cool to be like to have bowled good enough to be like, you know what, let's do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we decided it at the Lucy too. So
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, it tells you that we clicked pretty good together.
Yeah. Well, and I guess there was probably some on lane advantages too with the two of you bowling together, because you probably play relatively similar parts of the lane. I mean, you have a pretty similar rev rate, if not a higher rev rate than Brad.
I
And
think I
you're
throw it harder. I throw
okay.
it harder than Brad.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, we were basically on top of each other the whole time.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Did that help at all? Because like bowling with, over here with all the guys, like, when the ladies tour crashed, in 2011 or no, yeah, and then it came back in 15. That was one thing that all of the girls that went out onto the men's tour would talk about, how like it's a completely different game when you're bowling against all these guys that are just absolutely shredding first to fifth arrow. Did you see that out there, and then did Brad kind of help coach you through it, or did you tell him what to do?
No, Brett coached me through it. Um, I don't know. I feel like because a lot of men were bowling with us, so it kind of was not really us creating like the move left to each other for each other. It was just everybody bowling on the squad. But Brett definitely has more experience bowling so far left because he's on the men's tour and I'm right there on the women's tour. And he definitely was like, yeah, maybe it's time to move more. Like, don't be afraid to move, or I don't know, let's change balls. I don't know. We'll basically say at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
We might have been different balls, but we definitely had similar pieces in our hands. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. When you were growing up, did you have a hero or a bowling idol that you like looked up to? Was like, I want to bowl with him or her someday, or maybe I am bowling with him or her because I'm bowling adult tournaments at 13 years old.
No, not really. I just really like watching different bowlers bowl. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I would just go on YouTube and watch some TV shows, and I'll be like, oh, I really like how this person is bowling, and I like how this person is bowling, or I really don't like how this person is bowling. So it was just kind of watching some of the best people in the world and be like, I hope I can be there one day. So
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't just one person.
What bowlers didn't you want to bowl like? Whose game irritated you?
It irritated me. I don't know. For some reason I didn't like how Mike Fagan bowled.
Really?
I
You,
don't
you
know. It
didn't you
just
didn't
like
like the
looked weird to
big
me.
backwards elbow thing?
I was like, I don't know how it stays in place. Like, no offense to him. Like, he was really, really good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe I felt like it's not something I could ever do. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like,
Mm-hmm.
I really like, I don't know, Bill O'Neill, West Malott,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like they're not doing anything crazy.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Wes was there for a while. He just got overlapped by Belmonte because that was when Jason came over to the States and then just started spinning high roads and then winning titles. But like Wes was like you get when the gold ball came out, was that 2013? Wes was in like every TV show for like 2 years because him and that ball are still best friends.
No, I meant they're not doing anything super crazy in their technique, but like not
Ah,
in like making TV shows, but
yeah. Yeah.
something on the approach
Hmm.
that I
Hmm.
was like, oh my god, I could never do that. Well,
Yeah.
I'll never be as tall as West Malott, but
That is one guy I have yet to meet. I have yet to meet Wes, but I don't know if I want to because I don't really feel like being towered over by the big nasty. But yeah, I'm only 5'8" on a good day. So it's when he bowled the doubles, the PBA doubles with Norm Duke. That's probably one of my favorite like TV moments ever when he picks Norm up like the elf that he is. It was absolutely classic. Yeah, and then one of the guys. So I won't make you be the one that throws somebody under the bus all on your own. When I was growing up, the one guy that I just couldn't stand watch bowl, and he was in like every show for 4 years when Denny's was still like the primary sponsor of the PBA, was Mike Scroggins. It was like he was just that old school lefty, and it never looked like his ball should have ever struck, and he would outstrike everybody when they were just dirt. And it was so frustrating to watch because I was big on like Tommy Jones, these guys that could really get Chris Barnes when he was pre-injuries, he was still really kind of getting in on it. Those are the guys that I like to watch bowl because I'm 11 years old. Give me some rev rate, and then here comes Mike just dumping 200 up 5, and he's outstriking everybody. So I won't make you be the only bad guy here, but
Thank you.
What do you do for fun? Like bowling's great, but it can't be the only thing that we do. How does Maria spend her time?
I like to sleep a lot. But seriously, I've been back from the US Open, so I haven't really been bowling. Today is the first day I picked up a ball, like a week later after coming back. I've been doing puzzles the whole week.
Oh, okay. Nice.
I'm on puzzle number 3. Well, it's really funny about me that I am probably the most impatient person you'll ever meet.
You're the most impatient person that I'll ever meet.
Impatient, yeah.
Yeah, and yet you do 3 puzzles in a week somehow.
Yeah. I don't know.
That math doesn't add up.
Maybe I just can't wait to get them done. That's why I do so fast.
That's hilarious.
I was also a victim of the pandemic baking. So now I have a fancy mixer and I make like cupcakes and stuff,
Yeah, did you get to bowl at all during the pandemic? Like, because that was your senior year, right? At Vandy was pandemic year?
Yeah, but our season just cut short. So it started in March and we actually had just finished our last tournament of the main season.
Okay.
And we just didn't get to have conference and nationals.
Okay. Yeah, that align because I was coaching high school at that time. That pretty much aligns out the same. Where our conference was packed full of people the first week of March, and then they're like, "Well, actually, we're not going to do anything anymore because we can't pack 3,000 people into a 40-lane center right now, regardless of fire codes." That kind of sucks though. Like, because you guys were, or no, you weren't. You weren't defending champions at that point because you won your sophomore year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we finished second my junior year.
Oh, really? Who won that year?
SFA.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that because Carlene Beyer was on that team, and she's local. Matt Beyer owns a bowling center that I bowl at like 4 times a year, and that's her old man. So yeah, that was one where it was like, oh, I really know who that person is because I saw her bowl at 12, and now she's on TV, and she is actually I bowled because she came home for the summer, probably 3 or 4 different things with her this year, but that's right. I forgot that they won that year, but what are you working on? Like now that you're jumping back on the lanes, what's a physical game or mental game? What's on the docket to be the next thing to get better at?
And I think that the main thing I need to get better at is this mental game, because no matter how much I work on my physical game, the mental game is going to be the thing that stops me from making shows or cuts the most. Well, I believe that. I think that my physical game is good enough to be able to do those, but mental game is something that's been in the way for me. And then I always have a few things that I want to tweak in my physical game. But mental game is going to be a priority, I think.
What's your plan for improving it, the mental side?
I think it's really hard to work on it in practice because it's to really, really practice it, you have to create like tournament situations. I mean, what I'm trying to say, like you have to be in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
to actually practice it. But I think I'm gonna really try and read something on it. Maybe talk to somebody about it. Maybe I don't know some techniques
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know start a brain. No, I actually don't know. I just
So
have like little ideas, but I don't have a full plan right now.
yeah, yeah. Um, I don't know if you're familiar with who he is, but he's comically known as the Iceman. His name is Wim Hof. It's Wimhof. He's Danish. The reason that they call him the Iceman is because he is the only he climbed Mount Everest in shorts and a t-shirt. This is not a joke. And he didn't really summit all that much either. So I don't know if you're familiar with the mountain climbing process, but basically, most every single person that's ever climbed that mountain, you get to certain points of altitude and you have to stop and like sit there for a day so that your body can acclimate. And he did basically the whole thing without doing that. And he did it all without any sort of real gear on. And everyone thought he was a psychopath when he said that he was going to go do it, which he is. But what he did is he figured out it's not really a meditation technique. It's a deep breathing exercise that he just calls the Wim Hof Method. And it takes 5 minutes of your time, and it's a really weird experience because you take in like a bunch of really deep breaths and you over oxygenate yourself, and then you consciously stop yourself from breathing, so you completely expel all of the air from your lungs. And when you over oxygenate, your body says, I actually don't need air right now. And there's this weird cathartic experience where you actually don't have to breathe. And there's some psychological effects that actually happen in your brain that allow your airways to open up further and your diaphragm to work better, so your breath is deeper after you do this, and your cortisol, which is the stress hormone in your body, goes down. I only bring this up because I did this exclusively for bowling purposes, because when I get under pressure, my breath gets really shallow and really high. I start breathing up here a lot, and then my form completely goes away. And doing that the day before and the day of an event, I could push my breathing back down and recenter myself, and I would pack the 3 and the 10 that I would need like every single time. So
Wow.
recommendation, he has an app too. Like, he literally has an app that teaches you how to do this breathing technique. It's called the Wim Hof Method. It's free. Check it out. Yeah, it's going to be so weird. Forewarning, but it's pretty cool.
Okay. I definitely will. It would have been really, really good to know when we had to bowl in masks.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I don't do that. Like, I did for a couple tournaments around here, but I pretty much took all of COVID off. Like, as much as I love bowling, I really needed the break anyways. And then like my day job, I was working like 65 hours a week anyways, and it was like I just don't have time. I wanted the break anyways, just take the break. And I think I only bowled 2 or 3 tournaments in it. And then you guys didn't have to wear them for like half the season, and then had to do it again at the US Open, which was unfortunately the longest tournament. Was that kind of a big barrier for you?
so I really like the white tape because
Mm-hmm.
I don't like when I literally can't bowl when I feel like my hand is about to slip out of my ball. Even if I pack a lot of tape and I know it won't, I hate that feeling. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really important for me to feel the texture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I try not to pack too much, but it's really important for me to feel secure.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, one of my buddies, he's an idiot. It's fine, but he's got this thing. He developed it in college. He bowled at Vincennes for a couple of years, where he has this thing where he has to have like somewhere between like 10 and 13 pieces of tape in his thumb, all on the pad side of his thumb, and it's always white tape, and it's like this pillow that he just sets his thumb on. It's the weirdest thing.
Almost the same way. Like
That many?
Well, maybe not that many, but
That's a lot.
like they would drill a thumb for me, like a new thumb, like the new it, and I would hate, I don't know, like I don't like, so I would make it like really big, and then I can kind of shape, because I cut my own tape like in the size that I needed, and I would kind of shape it with all the different tape, like, and literally make it unique. I don't know. Not that other times are not unique, but it was super unique. So that's why I would have so much pieces of tape.
Did you learn to do that when you were a kid? Has it always been a tape game for you?
Pretty much since I could, like, when I learned to change my own tape, when I was, I don't know, 11, 12. Yeah. I would change tape, I don't know, before every practice.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It gets, how do this get, so like dust on it. It has to be changed.
Well, yeah, if you like the feel of that coarse grit type, anytime that you get any sort of, even just stuff in there, whether it's dust or, skin, that happens, right? I can imagine that, it gets slick, and then if you can't bowl without feeling like it's just going to stick on your thumb, that is a critical thing, which it's cool that you have that, though, because I know a lot of guys that bowl, they're not professional level by any stretch of the imagination, but they just struggle with it. Like it's sometimes it's popping off their thumb, and they don't have the confidence to be like, let's put some tape in, because they're afraid that they're going to just break their thumb right off. It's like, I promise you, we can pack 5 pieces of tape in that thumb, and it's going to come off your hand. You just got to will it that way. And they've seen like one guy ever throw it into the ceiling, and they've been broken ever since. But here's one for you. So, and I'm when you said yes to doing this podcast, this was the first question that came to my mind because of your experience in international bowling. Like, you've seen it from all 4 corners of the earth. How do you think you would make bowling better? Whether it's tournaments or the game itself. I don't think the game itself needs a whole lot of changing, but like, what would you change about the sport to make it better?
Would I change? I don't know if I could change that, but I wish that more bowling alleys had people in charge who actually care about bowling, because I think that would open up a lot of opportunities for their business and local bowlers, and just attracting more people who want to bowl, because they would come in a bowling alley, and I mean, obviously some people just go for, I don't know, beer and pizza, like on a Friday night, like for fun. But if you walk into the bowling alley during the day and it just looks, well, the pro shop is open, and you might want to try like bowling seriously. So I think that if more people who really like bowling or really had the opportunity to be in charge of a bowling alley, I think it would be really, really helpful for our sport.
Do you have any desire to be a proprietor or to own a bowling alley?
If I had the money to buy a bowling alley, yes.
Yeah. My buddy Nico just kind of referenced, he just bought one. He bought one a year ago, like almost to the day. So mid-pandemic, he bought a bowling center in the middle of the Northwoods of Wisconsin, which, if you've never been up here, you're not missing much. And
I've been to Wisconsin.
If you've been to southern Wisconsin, so like Milwaukee, Madison, that area, it's a completely different world. There, the people are sparse, but he has because he's loved bowling since he was 9, and took a bowling center that was dying, and now he's up. he hasn't quite doubled his team volume for his leagues, but he's really close to doubling the volume of teams in a year with some effort and some concern for the game. Like literally just like, I love this and now I'm going to do this and now it's working in less than a year. So it's very possible. And I completely agree with you. I guess you kind of said that the bowling center that you grew up at closed. Is that kind of where that comes from, where it's like it really doesn't exist where I came from, and if it did, there's so many more people that could do this, or is it something more stateside here that you're seeing as a more common thing?
Yeah, I'm just seeing it here as a common thing. Like sometimes, I don't know, maybe I'm traveling or I don't know, I just want to go practice at a random bowling alley. And sometimes you walk in there, you just take the wheel because it's going to be a long practice.
Yeah. No, I can contest to that. One of our locals that's around here, still wood, which there's nothing against wood lanes. I like wood lanes, but they're not the most well kept, and it's just kind of, it's a bowling alley that's still around. It's not necessarily thriving, and it's in the city that is just, it's so old, and there's like 3,000 people that live in the city as a whole, and it's just this dingy little bowling alley. And it's romantic because you can see, like, it's almost like a time machine where you go back 25 years and you can see how everything kind of used to be, but it hasn't changed in 25 years too. And now it's just beat up and kind of just old. And yeah, it's there's a lot of that. I think there's probably more of that than I even realize, because I don't travel nearly as much as you do to go bowl, but that's I think would be an awesome place to start. What about this? You graduated from Vandy with a communications major, right?
It was it's an interesting major. It's like I'm half engineer and half communication. I studied communication of science and technology.
So what does that mean? What is the career path besides professional bowler in that in that major?
It's basically I would be a translator from science to normal people language.
Okay. So okay, so you would work more for like a general contractor or something like that, that's like building like some sort of construction and like, okay. Why
So
that?
basically, why?
Yeah.
So because I really wanted to be an engineer first. It didn't work out. Me and my physics professor just did not get along. It was bad. And then I was like, maybe I'll try communications. And Vandy had this interesting major where I could still use the tech side that I learned, but also take things like public speaking, a bunch of writing classes, a bunch of classes that bridge the two, the science, technology, and communications. So it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I would have never even guessed that was a thing, to be like a blended kind of, because that's pretty career path. Like you're gonna if you're gonna use that, you're gonna end up in like I wouldn't say niche market, but what you're going to be doing based on that major, versus like a marketing major where it's like, I'm gonna go do marketing. Well, what does that mean? I don't really know yet.
Yeah, it's like I learned something about a lot of different things. That's why I can kind of go in almost every field, but also do the same kind of job. But I can choose, I guess, based on but now, funny that you mentioned marketing, because in grad school I'm doing marketing now.
Which you're doing at St. Francis. I just found that today. You're coaching too.
Yes, I'm a
So
graduate assistant.
that's awesome. Tell me about that shift. Like, I mean, are you coaching because you love bowling, or have you always wanted to coach? And I mean, you just fired up your first semester of grad school now too, or is this your second?
This is going to be my second. I
Or
actually
second year?
started in January.
Oh, okay, okay. And then
Yeah.
bowling season's coming up here. Like, if has it started already?
No. I actually don't even know our practice schedule yet because all the class schedule is still shifting a little bit because it's the first. Actually, today is the first day of class.
Oh, okay.
But our season starts in October, and we're gonna actually start traveling in it. But we're gonna start practicing pretty soon too. And the most interesting thing about coaching, like I literally graduated, and within a year I was on the other side of things, and it kind of opened my eyes a little bit, like why coach told me certain things in college, or why he wasn't happy about me doing something, what that seemed so stupid at the time. Like I
Mhm.
literally couldn't understand. And now I'm the coach telling one of my players that, and I'm like, oh.
Oh, how the shoe fits on the other foot.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Yes, exactly.
Have you found that refreshing or like fulfilling to, because for me that's like, especially to be such a quick turn on that, that's got to be like almost, I would see that as fulfilling because you put in all that work at Vandy when your coach is like looking at you like, stop being dumb. And then you listened, I'm guessing, at least some of the time, probably not all
I
the time.
tried.
We all went to college. We all know what it's like. But then to be able to have to be that person and appreciate that position almost immediately, it can, to me, that's one of those moments where I'm glad that I listened when I did, because clearly he was right.
Yeah, like the moment, like mom, I made it. Like I'm now trying to give all my knowledge that I gathered in the last 4 years of like connected to collegiate bowling, and I'm trying to teach it to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely want them to get better. I genuinely want them to do well.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to have the best time of their bowling career. And it's, I don't know how to describe that feeling. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the head coach, but I still have some power
Mm-hmm.
on what the players do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's kind of like, oh no, like I don't want to mess them up, but I really really want to help them. I don't know, like do a certain thing. For me, the my I only been in the first semester, and we didn't get to bowl much because of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely a lot of learning, um, a lot of learning, like on the personal level, how to approach every player, what they can and cannot do. You know, Coaching is just a whole different world that I kind of, obviously thought about
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
before, but when you actually get to do it, you're not ready for every single situation, and you don't know what to do in every single situation. But when
Mm-hmm.
you're a player, you don't really think about it. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's been refreshing because now I understand a lot of whys that I had when I was a player.
Yep. Yep. So that's, I'm just, as you're talking about that transition, your major in Vandy and the coursework that you had has to help that, because bowling is such a technical sport, and if you're a freshman in college, like the reality is that they're not going to know probably much of anything about like the physics and the dynamics of how bowling works, but you don't necessarily have to just lean on this science. Like, you can kind of translate it into ways that make sense. Have you found that to be kind of the case where you're really using that educational background to help them understand what's happening?
Yeah, maybe not just in science, but kind of, I don't know, just anything.
Yeah.
I've really learned that comparing, I don't know, something that it's really hard to imagine or think about to small things, you see every day, but kind of that, how do you explain this? I can't explain this. You know how, I don't know, like a space shuttle is however many football fields, and the
Yeah.
person will have an idea of how big it actually is. So I've
Yeah.
kind of been trying to use those little tips and tricks that I got in college to, dumb things down sometimes.
The way that I would phrase that is that you're putting it into a perspective that makes sense to them. I don't think it's dumbing it down, like, because
But
there's
it's, yeah.
so many things about bowling that you can so vastly overthink. Like, if you
Yeah.
start really diving into because that was actually because I started bowling competitively at 23. So I bowled youth leagues a little bit, and then my father-in-law asked me to go bowl league, and then it just kind of went off the rails, and now it's like what I think about all the time. And so the way that I kind of advanced that as fast as I could to get up to being competitive was through numbers. So understanding like the actual physical dynamics of the way that a bowling ball gyrates, because like you, I am kind of a physics dork. Assuming that you're a dork and you just didn't like your teacher, which you can be a dork. It's awesome if you are. But so that was how I did that, and then learning layouts. And now that 2LS is like the standard, and I'm just vastly confused by it and just wanting to figure out like all of the ways that they're trying to do this. But the other side of that is you have to throw the ball and you have to watch it go down the lane, and it really doesn't matter how much you know if you can't see it.
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
that's how I felt at the US Open. Sorry. That's
Oh,
how I
you're
felt
good.
at the US Open.
Yeah.
Because you might know all the numbers, all the surfaces, but then I throw it on the fourth pattern and it's a 2-8 again. And I'm like, how why? I don't understand.
Yeah. Do you find um that you see ball motion better when you're throwing it or when you're coaching?
Oh, definitely when I'm coaching.
Yeah. Does that drive you nuts?
Yeah.
Because I loved that about coaching, and then I'd go throw the ball and I'd be like, I'm missing a third of this. I can't see it.
Yeah, like it's actually sometimes really frustrating because I feel like I'm missing something, but I cannot see it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I literally I wish I could. Sometimes I consider when we're bowling bowl TV on and just watching my shot that I just threw.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really hard to tell from the video. I just wish I had the person who was standing behind me, which was me, and
Yeah.
telling me what I just did.
Yep. Do you ever use cameras for yourself? Because like I've started practicing with an iPad all the time. Like if I'm gonna go actually practice, an iPad's coming with me, and I watch back pretty much every shot.
Well, I use my phone and then I'll work
Yep.
on something and I'm like, okay, let's see if it's actually anything changed. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll go and record a few shots and see what I'm actually doing. But now I don't record like the whole practice,
Mm-hmm.
just some shots when I feel like I've been working on something and I need to look back and see if anything is different.
Okay. Yeah, I'm crazy like that where I hyper analyze. So it's interesting because everyone does it their own way. Like I know guys that are pure feel bowlers. Like they don't care what it looks like. It's just if it comes off my hand right, I know it's gonna strike. And I don't even know what I hit, but I know I'm gonna strike. Which is a weird phenomenon if you ask me. But yeah, it's pretty cool to have that technology like right away. It's just in your pocket. Like I can make myself better with this thing if I just prop it up on this seat that's here, put it. I've seen guys like even use their shoes as tripods, which is hilarious. But yeah, I mean, really, your path has been so fascinating. This is here. I think this is maybe the best way to wrap it up. So I'm gonna give our internet as much juice as I can so that it doesn't cut out. If you had to explain to a stranger what you do, how do you explain it? And if you have to use Russian swear words, you're welcome to.
you know, I don't. You mean like that I bowl, or how do I bowl?
Or like how you got to the point of being a professional bowler that won a European bowling tour title and has this master of sports and is a national champion and was a top 3 rookie of the year for her first year on the ladies tour and is not slowing down. Like that whole path, if you have to give the elevator speech, how do you do that?
If it was a complete stranger that had nothing to do with bowling, I would probably tell them that I'm just crazy and I'm better than them at bowling. Because I feel like it's a much longer path at this point. Actually, public speaking class, my junior year, I think it was my junior year, I did a presentation on bowling, and I had to explain bowling balls, lane play, and oil patterns in 10 minutes. And it was and I could and I chose to do this, and it was the worst decision of my life.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this, so I would keep. If somebody asked me, I would keep it really short and.
I can't imagine trying to explain one of those 3 things in 10 minutes, let alone all 3.
I want to forget this. It was awful. I don't know how my classmates sat through this.
They didn't have a choice.
And some afterwards, that means that they actually listened. Well, no, they did, but they actually listened to something. I was like, oh.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. I don't know if I think it's maybe maybe that should be your thing during your off time, is figuring out how to use this ability to put things into a perspective that makes sense to other people and explain bowling. Especially if you're going to get into marketing, if marketing is going to be your graduate focus, if you can figure out how to explain to somebody the intricacies of how bowling is, in my perspective, one of, if not the hardest sport in the world, and you can do that in 15 minutes, I think that's how you make the game better. Because what it does is it says, all right, if I'm watching bowling on TV, it's not just I'm spinning it and I'm throwing it right and it's just pushing pins over because it's easy. It's like, no, then you go watch what the US Open just was, and the fact that Josie got 9 very, very luckily in the 10th and then made it actually wasn't that bad of a shot. It was this much off, and it's because of how hard bowling is that it's like you can see, if you understand that, you can see it, but if you don't understand it, it's just like, well, she threw it bad and now she just won $100,000. This is dumb. Like, I think if you can explain that, there's your graduate thesis. I just nailed it for you. I'm just kidding.
I actually think it's impossible. I mean, they're trying to do with the new scoring system.
Oh yeah.
Strike is 30, spare is 10 plus whatever you left, and I think it's a step in there, but I don't think they can do much more. I mean, you can't say that here's a short pattern because it's shorter than 39 feet, and they're throwing a weak ball, and that's how it works. But then I don't know, people won't know the actual depth of, I don't know, the speed matters, the rev rate matters, the lane itself matters. So I don't know.
I think you can do it. I don't know how you're going to do it, but I believe in you, if that's what you want to do.
It was kind of like golf.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just say that bowling is just like golf, and then people will be like, oh, yeah, I got it.
I've done that in the past. I don't know if you've ever used that comparison, but
I have.
Yeah. Actually, Real Sports is on HBO. It's been on HBO since like the 90s. And they did a feature on Nebraska during Julia Bond's senior year, so like 3 years ago. And they went through their because they got their bowling lockers in their practice area and all that. And she was trying to explain it to the guy that was interviewing her, and she's like, would you show up to a golf course with 2 clubs? No. So you don't show up to a bowling tournament with 2 balls. Like, they do different things. And this one that doesn't do anything in terms of, it's my spare ball, so it's my putter. Like, that's the one that has to work the best. Otherwise, the whole day's shot. But also, I need a driver, and I need, a 5-iron, and I need a wedge, and I need to be able to do different things in different areas. And I'll have to send you the link, because Bryant Gumbel, whatever, the host of the show, was like super disrespectful when it shot back to the studio. He was like, "It's bowling." Like his show went out to one of the most storied collegiate programs in bowling, did this
And
great
players.
yeah, and did this interview, got phenomenal interviews out of these college players, and then he was just like, "But it's bowling." And it's like, "No, man, you weren't listening."
You know what you should do with this new cancel culture? You just should post it on Facebook and say something like, "Oh, canceled. Bowlers will take care of it.
I
The
don't
show will
know.
not be airing anymore."
There's bowlers are so bad at Twitter, though. I don't know. No one in this bowling zone knows how to use social media to a really good degree. Like, there's so few of us that could actually cancel somebody. Like, that's another way how to grow it, which I think is pretty cool, that you and I, by absolute For You page circumstance, kind of just got connected that little bits, and working on. I think that's a cool way to get bowling into the minds of people, is use the channels that are already there, because it's working for other sports, and the big major sports aren't using it, right? Like, you probably, you're European, so you probably think baseball is dumb and American football is stupid. Are you a soccer fan, actually? You gotta be.
No, I don't like soccer.
No.
I think soccer is stupid. I love baseball, and I don't like American football because I don't know where the ball is, and they stop every 5 seconds.
Yeah. Yep. But these
It's very challenging for me to watch it.
yeah, these big sports, though, they're not using what they have available to them to make the sports grow. Like baseball, there's no accessibility to players at all. Football's okay about it, but the NBA, which basketball is what it is. You like it, you don't. But those players are human to all of the fans, which is why their merchandise sales are through the roof, and basketball cards are ridiculously overpriced right now, and there's so many things that LeBron James, be him what he is, he when he it feels like he's in your house when he's playing basketball, versus this baseball player who's just hanging out in right field, and I barely know his number, let alone his name. It's different. And if you can use social media, and because I felt that actually in bowling in the early 2000s, when Lumber Liquidators, Denny's, the PBA tour was right at the end of that ABC era. I watched bowling every single Sunday over football, because they were people. They were doing interviews, and like I said, Tommy Jones was a person. He wasn't just some dude that was just on TV, and now he's a Hall of Famer, which is awesome. But that's why I loved the sport, because I was watching people that I liked succeed or not sometimes. And if you can do that through the channels that we have now, you don't have to wait for TV. You don't have to wait for CBS Sports to be like, yeah, we'll do a full TV schedule again. It's like, actually, let's all just be popular on our own, and then CBS Sports won't be able to say no. That, to me, is the solution.
Okay.
So
that makes sense. Yes, it does.
But again, you're going to graduate school for it, and I still think that there's more answers that you're going to have than I will have, because you're actually out doing it, which, good on you, by the way, to get out there and try, because that, I don't know if you realize this, but the women are way better bowlers than the guys are. like a lot better. In my opinion, I think all the women are phenomenal bowlers.
Make more spares.
You have to play the lane the right way too. Like so many of the guys just get in and hammer on it, and then just all this friction gets in, and then it's just a hook party. Like, to me, that's fun 15% of the time.
The Lucy was great because I could actually get with the girls. You have to stay right most of the time and actually do try.
Yeah, which you probably got to do a lot in college.
There were a few tournaments where on the women's tour I could get whack, and in college I didn't start sliding right of 25. It was great.
Just get in and hammer on it.
I mean, you have 10 people on a pair. It's very crispy by game 3.
Yeah, that's crazy. And then that's in your. It was always all women though, right? Or did you ever cross with? Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's still a hook fest, but
yeah.
What's the one where they still hand oil?
I feel like it could be, if I could think of one tournament, it would be NAIA, and it would be Hoosier Classic.
That's it. You nailed it.
Indianapolis. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and it was a mess.
I never bowled it, but apparently I know.
Yeah, I would never want to do that. That, and then there's the Bradley where they put out like the 37 mil patterns, and it's just like, all right, we're gonna throw charcoal all day long, and it's you're not gonna like it.
Have fun suffering.
Yeah, right, and not like fun suffering. Like, no, your hands just gonna hurt. Maria, thank you very much. I have taken plenty of your evening, though. I will let you go, but thanks a ton for doing this. And you're bowling the Fall Classic, I would assume, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
For now, yes.
Right. Till the world changes again. We'll give her a little knock on wood. Well, good luck out there when that comes around. Maybe we'll be in touch before then. But if I don't talk to you before then, great. Best of luck out to you. Phenomenal bowling this season. You kind of talked about it, where it's like, sometimes I want to be great, but sometimes I got to realize I'm breathing in the same air as Liz Johnson. You held your own, and I think you showed up pretty darn well in a lot of good ways, and I think you're headed in a good direction. So keep it up.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Big thank you to Maria for saying yes to doing this podcast and kind of being our guinea pig here as we figure out some of the details of how this whole thing is going to work. 10 Pin Life does have a couple other interviews already lined out, so be sure to hit subscribe, hit that like button, drop a 5-star if you're on iTunes, even just hit that like button. Anything that you can do to help kind of spread the message so that we can make our sport better, I would be very, very grateful for. But that's going to wrap it up for 10 Pin Life Podcast Episode 1. We'll catch you on the next one.